Hey family, it's Dr. Marissa Johnson and happy Wine Therapy Wednesday. This episode is titled, Where is My Hope? This episode ties in with suicide prevention, and as some of you may remember, I am a suicide survivor. My brother Billy Johnson completed suicide in 2015, and from that moment on, I decided I would turn my pain into purpose. And now I specialize in suicide prevention and depression with a doctoral degree in professional counseling. Suicide is the 12th leading cause of death in the U.S. And last year, in the year 2020, 3.88% of the men completed suicide more than the women. Suicide is something that we don't talk about much. It's very uncomfortable, but we want to normalize talking about mental health issues. So today, my guest is here with the male perspective of having suicidal ideation. I'm excited to share his challenges that he faced, how he overcame suicidal ideation, and where did his hope come from. Before we get started, you know we have to introduce the wine of the day. And the wine of the day is from Gadela Winery here in Spring, Texas. And the name of this wine is Serafin, and it is a red wine. So I'm excited to share that. My guest will have his own cup, but I'm excited to share this moment with him as we talk about something dear to my heart, something that I have experienced personally, and I hope it helps all of you. Let's talk about it. All right, Mr. Kevin, so before we get started, we have to do my new tradition is putting our corkscrew into my corkscrew case, and we are doing it. Thank you for being a part of this show, Mr. Kevin Sims, and thank you for being with me to talk about literally suicidal ideation and depression with men. When I met you in Nebraska, it's like we clicked instantly and we talked about literally that, and I think I just poured out to you about my brother. So kind of give us a rundown of like what triggered your suicidal ideation.
Okay, so and first, listen, I'm glad to be back at it with you again, Queen. I gotta say that.
Thank you.
We're back again.
We back again.
For me, a lot of it started like a lot of people's suicidal ideation, and that was in my childhood. I want to say that, you know, within my childhood, that was where the seeds, I think, for the ideation was planted. You know, growing up, you know, I was raised in a single parent household. It was, you know, me and my sister, and me and my sister are 6 years apart. Okay. And, you know, we had two separate fathers. And so growing up, I always, truth be told, to be honest with you, Dr. Johnson, I felt like I was just a mistake. I felt like God kind of made a mistake when he placed Kevin on this earth.
So that was the first thing that brought you some kind of, I would just say, maybe sadness. Like, okay, I'm a mistake. I was supposed to be here. That's the first thing.
Yes, and you know, and the reason being is just because, you know, my sister, she had this, so I always felt like growing up, I felt like my sister was the standard. I felt like she was what I had to kind of like meet up to. And so, you know, with having her dad around, I didn't really get to know my dad until I want to say 9, 10. So going through all of that, and then even after I did meet him, he still wasn't a present and active father. Okay. And so that was really tough for me. Also, on top of that, you know, I was bullied growing up, you know. You know, I didn't act like the rest of the boys, I guess you could say. You know, I was raised around women. You know, I was raised by my mom, my aunt, my grandmother, and my sister. And so, of course, you know, as a young man growing up, you're going to catch on to those mannerisms. So, you know, I remember growing up, you know, I would always get called a tom girl. And I just recently shared this with my best friend and another friend of mine. And so I would, you know, get called a tom girl. And for me, Dr. Johnson, like, regardless of what I acted like, I still love to be outside and play. Yeah. Like, I love to, you know, stay outside, get dirty, play tag, curveball, all of the stuff that kids do. And so for me, I never really caught on to it. And so for me, I was just laughing with, you know, everyone else. And so I remember one day so vividly, a kid was like, you know, and this was as I got a little older. And so somebody was like, you know that they're not like really laughing with you. They're more so laughing at you. And so, you know, that was kind of heavy just because I was like, you know, and for me, I'm such a open, free-spirited individual. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I love, you know, I'm a lover of people. And it was difficult to digest that. Y'all could be laughing at me like I'm one of the nicest people ever.
Right.
Now, truth be told, don't try none of that business.
Don't try it now, though, okay? Don't.
No.
Do not try it, okay?
No, Kevin of childhood and Kevin of adult years are
two different things. Okay.
Two different people.
Okay.
So don't get it confused. But yeah, and so that was just really tough. And so going through that, like that was something that just really carried with me because it was hard for me to find my fit. You know, it was hard for me because I didn't play sports. I wasn't, really active in those regards. And then on top of that, like I said, just trying to meet up to the standards of my sister going into my teen years was the years that I actually acted on these ideations. And so with that, my ninth grade year, my freshman year, my grandmother passed away. I think, my first or second month into my ninth grade year, very soon after that, my mother came and told us that she had breast cancer.
Oh, wow.
And so that, she had never went back to work a day after that.
Yeah.
And in those years, in my teen years, was when I started experimenting within my sexuality. And I come from the era, and I know I sound kind of old saying that,
era,
but I come from the era of the gay community that it was just LGBT.
Yeah.
There was no QIA+. So, I didn't come from the era where they had like the little Nas X's and, they just had the symbols in society. I think one of my biggest idols growing up, and he was still a heterosexual man, was Prince. But I just love the fact that he was just very flamboyant. He was just very
open. Yeah,
dressed.
He was himself. He didn't care. Like I'm me. Yeah,
exactly. And that was really tough. And so to not really have anything to connect to was ultimately led me, Dr. Johnson, to feeling like I needed to remove myself from the situation. Majority of the time, like I said, from my childhood to my teen years, and even in my early 20s, I just felt like a burden. I felt like more of a burden. And I'm like a lot of people who have these ideations, I think life would be a little bit better if I wasn't here.
Yes.
And so, so like I said, I acted on those. To God be the glory that none of them succeeded. There were only two, but to God be the glory that they didn't succeed. But I just remember the mental baggage because, again, the woman who I saw as the world's strongest person is now, for lack of a better term, clinging on to her life, clinging on to her life. When they had found the lump in her breast, I mean, like I said, she never went to work after that. She had surgery after surgery after surgery. The wound had caught infection. Like I say, it just was a ripple effect.
It was a lot. It was a lot going on. And I guess my question is, when you say two, when you say there was only two, like two suicidal ideations, like the thoughts, like only two instances of that, or what was the two that you experienced when it pertains to suicide?
When I actually acted on it.
Wow.
Yeah, I acted on it twice in my teen years. Wow. And I remember, I even speak on one. I had taken a bottle of pills, and I think they were just like some cheap generic, around the family, you always got some Tylenol hanging around. And I'm not trying to make light or joke of it.
No.
It was just, I had took it, and I just remember sitting there, and I said, God, I'm just ready for you. I'm just ready for you. And again, God wasn't ready for me because
obviously you still,
I'm still here to talk about it. So I remember that I got extremely, extremely sick. I was throwing up like crazy, and I was like, okay, maybe that is a sign. That's a sign because like I said, growing up, I was raised in the church. My grandmother and my aunt kept me in the church.
Yeah.
But we also know how, going back to, the sexuality topic, we know how the Black community views it.
Yes.
We know how the church views it. And, we know that that's just not talked about at all.
It's not. And like, I love the fact that you said that you felt like if I'm gone, it'd be better if I'm gone. Like, I don't need to be here. And a lot of people, men who feel that way, it's a lot of pressure on them because a lot of men don't even talk about it. So my question is, who did you even talk to about these feelings? Like, who did you open up to about feeling? Obviously, you felt left out, especially due to the LGBT thing. Like, you felt kind of, I guess, like not connected, and it's already shunned on by the church and, the Black community. And then it's like, so who did you go to? Who was your person, your support person? Or did you?
I have to say, and I've said this a few times before, even though They didn't really know what to say in those moments. You know, my circle of friends really like held me together. You know, a lot of them I'm still cool with. You know, they love me through each and every phase that I went through. You know, when I went through kind of like the punk rock phase where I had like the chains on the belt and the leather gloves and stuff. You know, they just love me through whatever. And so I promise you, they truly held me together just because it for me. And again, like I say, my family already dealing with a lot.
Yeah.
And in the Black family, homosexuality is not a topic.
It's not.
Especially then.
It's just not.
Especially then. Like it wasn't. I remember when I came out, you know, my aunt, she's also somebody who has been such a supporter and lover. I always say she's one of the few people who I can say I've experienced love at an unconditional level.
Wow.
And mind you, she was, you know, the church lady. You know, she was the church goer. And, you know, with that, she would always tell me from childhood on up, you know, Kevin, God has a calling on your life. You know, she would always just inject me with just positivity and wisdom and encouragement. And that carried with me, you know, that carried with me over time because, like I say, you know, it was tough. You know, I didn't have, you know, granted, you know, take nothing away from my mother because she was just, like I say, trying to be here for her kids.
Yeah.
And so as I am an adult now and as I can look back in hindsight, like she really, you know, I had an old school parent. You know, my mom had me at 36. So, you know, their love languages were different than the love languages of today. You know, the love language that we had growing up was you had clothes on your back, you had food on the table, you know, you were taken care of.
Thank you. Yeah,
and, you know, and then the nurturing aspect kind of got lost, or, you know, it was a little blurred.
Yeah.
But truth be told, you know, if she missed the beat, her kids missed the beat, and she just wasn't going to have that.
Yeah.
So I wholeheartedly, you know, just love that woman for that. But yeah, you know, like my aunt, my friends, I'm big on journaling. I've always journaled my entire life.
So journaling. So journaling is what I call a coping skill, of course. Because it helps you like to process your feelings, your thoughts, or whatever. And as a man, I don't know too many men that journal. I ain't gonna lie, I don't know. Even like my clients, I don't know too many men that journal. I don't think that they like to write as much, or maybe they feel like it's not helpful. Or some of them, especially like a certain age, it's like, well, I'm told to, you know, suck it up. I'm good. Like I'm just gonna like bury it or whatnot. So when did you start journaling and found it to be helpful with you during that time?
As a child, I don't know if you remember the day of the gel pens, but I remember I had like and I wish I could find this just so I could see what Kevin at 8, 9, 10 years old was thinking in that moment.
Yeah.
But like I say, it started ever since childhood. And I want to say, you know, I had adopted that from school. But, you know, I remember, and I would just write about whatever, you know. Sometimes I will write about, you know, how it hurt to be bullied. Sometimes I will write about, you know, feeling like I was a disappointment just because, again, there wasn't many outlets. But, you know, for me, journaling has been something that's been in my life for as long as I can remember. And to be completely honest with you, my journal that I have today dates back to, and it would have dated back earlier than that, but I had lost the files, so I had lost all those previous journals.
Yeah.
But my current journal dates back to January of 18. I want to say.
Oh wow. Okay.
So you know, journaling. I mean, it's and like you say, it's just a coping thing. Like that's where I can go. I can be unapologetically me. I don't have to you know, box myself in for nobody. And even though I don't do that, you know, regardless, but there's just certain thoughts, and I tell people, you know, especially men, like you have to get those thoughts out.
You gotta get it out.
You have to filter through that, because carrying it around, it's like poison.
So my question is, if we don't, so did you talk to any of your family members though? Like, did you tell them how you were feeling? Was it your friends? Because sometimes if our family members are not like really open, then we feel like we can't talk to them. We don't have that, I guess, connection, or we don't even know where to start. So, like, did you talk to family members, or was it only friends? Because some people don't even know where to start with talking, or who to talk to. How did you know even who to vent to about the way you feel as a man?
I think, and so again, I'm still kind of in childhood and teen years. You know, as as the Black community, it's hard for us to have those heavy conversations.
Yeah, it is.
So, like I said, my aunt, she would always continue to encourage me. As a man, growing up, I had to just realize, like, Kev, you're going to have to find somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
But for me, I was always an individual, and I'm currently in therapy now. I was always an individual, and one thing I had told my therapist in one of our first, sessions was, one thing I want to learn is to get out of my own head.
Yeah.
To get out of my own head, because self-talk is so important. We are so hard on ourselves. We are
negative self-talk. We can do it all the time, and it's like we're overthinking. It gives you anxiety. So I can only imagine what a man go through, because y'all have kind of more pressure in society than we do. So I can only imagine what you're going through, and then not only that, how are you dealing with it? And that's why I feel like our suicide rate is so high with men, because it's so much pressure. You don't know really how to deal with it. I read research recently. They talked about how women, we're easier to deal with stress than a man, because we're going to find somebody to talk to. We're going to talk. We're going to find a way to let it out and cope. As a man, when they were younger, depending on what year, whatever, they were told, like, suck it up, don't cry, you're going to be all right. So they had to learn how to hold it in. So I admire you, because you actually went and told somebody. You actually went and talked to somebody. Most men don't do that, and that's why we are at this rate of suicide that we are.
Yeah, and truth be told, Dr. Johnson, we can say for years, but I've kind of switched up that verbiage, and I say men have had to suffer with this for generations.
I like
you see what I'm saying? Men have had to suffer with this, have had to carry this weight for generations. And so it's so tough, because we don't have that outlet. Because in our minds, we're still in a space of, I still have to be the alpha. I can't be anything else but firm and stand strong. I don't have an avenue. And I always say, when a man truly finds a space that he's comfortable with. A safe space, yes. That voice that has so much to say, that voice that has the world to say. You honestly, and I say this, you won't get a man to shut up when he knows that space is safe.
He gonna talk. He won't. And one thing I can say, like, I know me and you talk with, I'm a talker. So I know we talked earlier about a situation when someone came to you about, hey, I'm thinking about I'm having suicidal thoughts or whatnot. And to me, it's an honor. It's an honor when somebody come to you about that, because people don't talk about it. It's just this conversation. Talking about suicide is talking about sex with kids as a parent. Literally, that's the uncomfortability we got for it. And it's just like, no, we need to talk about it, because some of us are dealing with it and we don't even know who to talk to, where to start, how to let it come out. You don't know who dealing with that, So I feel like it's an honor that they even came to you to talk, because they trust you. They're open to you. They obviously reaching out for help. So I think that was a big honor. I do. Absolutely.
And I just think it's so important, in going to that particular situation. This was here fairly recently. And, suicide is never nothing that you want to take too lightly, especially now, but I think a lot of the reasons why we view suicide as the only option is because we feel like this is the only place we'll be in for the rest of our lives. And that's not the case. This open wound that you're carrying will soon turn to a scar. It's temporary. And for me, I always say that's like a battle wound. You wear that as a badge of honor. You see what I'm saying? Growing up in the church, they say trouble don't last always. That's true.
That is so true. Our emotions are very temporary. Our feelings are temporary. So when you get past that, it's like you're going through it, and we want to give. It's like, to me, it's like giving up. Like, I rather, it'll be better if I'm not here. Like, but it's not, baby. It's not. And I always tell people not to guilt trip them, but to say, how is everyone gonna feel when you're gone? Who are you leaving behind? What can you offer somebody? Like, don't lose hope because of what you're going through currently. And of course, and a lot of that is from you building stuff up. I know we talked about earlier the cup of the water running over, because all you're doing is letting stuff build in and just running over. So eventually the cup is going to just spill. It's just going to spill, and I'm just grateful that you're here to talk about it today. And the question that I had was, how did you find your hope? Like, we talked about some of your triggers, which was, all that in the past, like all of that are triggers, right? Even with your sexuality, that's a trigger, because I don't know, that kind of make me feel away. So how did you find your hope? What happened?
Again, I have to go back to my aunt, who, like I said, she just played a big part. And the thing is I felt like she knew more than what we had talked about. We didn't talk about too much, but I felt like she knew more than what we had talked about. I think that she knew that I felt like I was a mistake, because my sister's dad was present. He was around. Again, going back to me saying, like, I felt like my sister was the standard that I could just never meet, in school, activities, friends. And, 6 years apart, like, you're already in two different stages of life.
Exactly.
So and I just had to kind of grow in that. So I always felt like I had to kind of keep with her. But, I'll share this quick story. Mary J. Blige is one of my favorites. And if anybody know me, they know I love me some Mary.
Okay. The queen herself. Okay.
The queen. Oh my God. And I've always loved her. But in 2005, she released the album titled The Breakthrough. Mm-hmm. And this was actually a little bit before I had kind of like gone public. So I came out of anger. Mm-hmm. Like I came out of anger. I came out because I thought I was going to be able to get back at my family, and it was just a mess. Like I didn't come out in a way that was too pleasant. And so again, going back to just feeling like I just didn't have a fit. I didn't have a space with anyone. I didn't really have that connection. And so there's a song on there. And honestly, this is my first time ever publicly speaking about this. Okay. Titled "Take Me As I Am." Yeah. And when I heard that song, and look, it's getting me a little emotional now. Yeah. When I heard that song spoke to me in that exact moment. And when I tell you, Dr. Johnson, I cried like the biggest baby ever. Yeah. Because I was so thirsty I was so thirsty to feel like I was seen. I was so thirsty to feel like I was heard. I was so thirsty to want somebody to feel my pain. And even if you look at the video, it details that, where Mary is playing, she's a black model, and then, the model, that model gets taken out, and then a white model gets put in her place. And so that model, the model that Mary played, tried to kill herself. Oh, and so for me, when I tell you, I just truthfully grabbed on and held on to that song. Like, and I kid you not, Dr. Johnson, it was years before I could truly like talk about it how I just did with you and not cry, because I honestly felt like that song was made for me. For you. That song, it was right on time. People, right on time. I felt like that song saved my life. I really did. Wow. I felt like that song saved my life. It gave me hope. Anytime I ever felt down, anytime I ever, again, got in my head, because as a teen, here I am just trying to protect myself from those who don't like me, just because of who I am. Yeah. Trying to, just fight different battles from within and without. And so, from the inside and the outside. And so it was just really tough. But I tell you, what truly gave me hope, and that song honestly came right on time. Right on time. Yeah. Because I couldn't. And I remember I had seen her performing live one day in concert, and I was the only one in the row, and I just bawled, like I just let it out. It was just like the legend, the woman who saved. No, it's like the woman who saved my life is here. Like she's here. Yeah. She don't even know it. Yeah. And sometimes it is a song. Like I talk to people about. What's your fix? Your fix can be a song, it can be a smell, it can be whatever it is that you can cope with during that time, that you can always go back to when you're feeling down or feeling sad. This is, okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to read this book. I'm going to go back and I'm listening to this song. I'm going to go back and I'm going to light this candle. Literally, it's the small stuff that makes you feel like, I got this. Yep. I got this. So my last question, go ahead. For men who are dealing with suicide ideation, dealing with depression, in general, what would be your advice to them today? I'll share the same information that I have shared with the individual who reached out to me, who are so much stronger than this present moment. Yeah. You really are. You're so much stronger than this present moment. We never feel like it in that time. We don't. Dr. Johnson, we never realize it until it's in hindsight. Yeah. We never know why we go through things until it's in hindsight. Because if we can be honest, your pain is the birthplace for your purpose.
Come on now. You better don't be preaching on here today.
It really is.
Don't do that.
It truthfully is the birthplace of your purpose, and we don't realize it because, Dr. Johnson, if I hadn't gone through everything that we had just talked about, we wouldn't be able to have this conversation.
That's so true. And the same with myself. Like, most people know my brother completed suicide in 2015, so I wouldn't be here talking about suicide at all because we didn't talk about it at my table at the dinner, for dinner or breakfast. That wasn't talked about, so that's why wine therapy is here to normalize these conversations. Like, look, just like talking about sex with your kids, you gotta talk. If you don't, somebody else gonna talk to them about it, and you better hope that they don't say anything negative. You know what I'm saying? So let's just go ahead and start it out right. So what you saying is so true. Your pain turns into purpose, and I love the fact that you have what you standing on your purpose now with definition of a man. I love it. Like, I love the whole platform, everything about it. Like, you giving men a safe space to talk and talk freely, and I love it. I love it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's important, and I had actually on Facebook, because of course it's Mental Health Awareness Month.
I see you green.
Yes, come on, gotta represent. And so, I had posted the National Suicide Prevention Helpline. And, I had just wrote a small caption. I said, because you are here on purpose. Yeah. And sometimes, we have to be reminded of that. We let our day-to-day beat us up. We go through the ins and outs. And, sometimes you're just like, listen, I just want this pain to get up off of me.
That's it.
I want this pain to get up off of me. So people, I think it's truly important that we have to be reminded that, this trouble that you're in is not going to last always. And you'll look back and be like, so that's why. That's why I had to go through what I went through, because
exactly
it's just like going to the gym. Adversity builds muscle. It builds character. It builds strength.
That's so true. So true. So true.
And we have to learn. And again, when things get too heavy, seek help. There's nothing wrong with it.
Tell these men, like, it's okay to. As a woman, I'm honored for you to come talk to me.
Yeah. Oh my God, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity, Dr. Johnson. I really am. Listen, we can talk for days.
We can. We started out talking for air. Like, it was like we knew each other. Like, oh my God, like we're just talking down. But it's a true honor. I can't say thank you enough for being on the show. To really let the men know it's okay. Like, this is a safe space. Definition of a man is a safe space. Look. You can come and literally let it out. We are here for you. I agree with everything Mr. Kevin Sam said today, and I hope that y'all enjoyed it as well. Look, of course, this is not our last time speaking together, so you have to catch us on the podcast because we're going full force. It's it. Okay, so please be on the watch out for us coming back with a part 2, 3, and 4 for this because this is how important it is to us.
Listen, toast to you, Queen. Toast to wine therapy. Toast to the engagement.
Thank you.
I just wish nothing but abundance for you and the movement, and I love what you're doing, Queen. Thank you, because we need to see more faces like ours.
We need to know that. Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, family, we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace. Next time on Wine Therapy.
And preparation, you can never prepare for death. I watched my grandma leave her. She actually turned to me and took her last breath and looked at me in my eyes. I wasn't prepared for that, and I have been watching her be sick for years. But you think if you prepare for that moment, you never prepare. So